All right, so last time we started 13.3, and we're going to just briefly go through, like Austin suggested, the pieces that we did so we can see where we were. 13.3 is about truth in lending, and it's all based on a law that was passed by Congress in 1968 that addressed two major issues. One issue was how much interest we are being really charged for something, not just what it sort of said on there, because we'll find that that doesn't always sort of add up quite right. And then also how much we're entitled to save if we pay something off early. How much money we should get back if we decide or are able to pay something off early, okay? So the first question, or the first issue that we talked about is that you're going to need page 707's table. Either print it out if you'd like to from online to use as you're working with My Math Lab, or if you have your book, just have it open there. You're going to need that table for this particular section. And I will print this particular table out for your final as well. You'll have a copy of this table. It's the only table you're going to need. And then, of course, your note card you'll have to use as well. All right, so this table, actually, if you take a look at this particular table, next time I teach this class, I think I'm going to have to put a picture of the table, and that would be much more helpful than what I'm doing right now. But if you look at your particular table, you're going to notice a few features. I'll write a few things on the slide. You're going to notice that you've got months along the left. You'll notice that you've got APR values along the top. And then you'll notice that inside the table, there's a whole bunch of values in here. And these values in here are going to be what we call our H values. Okay? There's a formula for them, and we found that last time. We'll get there in a sec. Having such good success with this thing. Apparently it's 2 days in a row of good things. All right. All right. So the table looks something like this. You've got all these month values going down the left. So we've got our months along the left, and then across the top we have APR values along the top. Now, we showed how this worked last time. We talked about Ann and Andy, and they decided they're going to finance a dishwasher, and we all decided that probably was not the best choice. I think Brittany said they should save up their money and buy one, and I said, or they could get one used. Right, so we talked about this. We looked at how much money they were going to finance. This particular problem, they had. Oh, you're seeing those too. Okay, you're just going to see them today. All right, They had $500 that they were going to pay for the dishwasher. They paid $100 down, and then they had a $400 finance amount that they were financing. All right, one more time. All right, so the finance charge then, just like we talked about in section 3.2, is rated based on how much we're borrowing. Right, Paige? That was the one question that you had. So we have our amount that we borrowed, which is our $400 here. This is the add-on interest rate was 6%, and this one was 18 months, so we had 1.5 years. We found out that the interest they were going to pay was $36. And then if we were looking at the actual finance charge, that's when we were using this particular table 70 on page 707. And we take the finance charge. This is our H value down here. I'm sorry, this is going to be really low. But this is our finance charge divided by the amount that we financed times $100. So our finance charge was $36. That was the step 2. Step 2, so I little it. And then the amount that we financed was the $400 for step 1. We multiplied by 100, we got 9. Now, when we got that 9, we actually used that on the next part. So step 4 was using that table, page 707, and we went down the left-hand side of the table to find 18 months. We went across the row that was 18 months to find the value that was the closest inside of the table to 9. And that value was actually 8.93 on this particular one. We use that 8.93, and then we back up to the top of that column, and that was the APR value for this particular transaction. And it was 11%, which was nearly double the add-on interest rate. So that actually addresses the first of the issues from the Truth in Lending Act. That is, how much interest are we really paying? Okay, so any questions on those particular pieces? Okay, now we're going to look at addressing the other issue in the Truth in Lending Act, which is not how much are we paying, but how much are we entitled to save if we pay something off early, okay? So there are 2 ways of doing that. The first method is called the actuarial method, and so what you do is you have several different letters in this particular in particular formula. So let's go through the letters that you're seeing. And this is an installment loan requiring monthly payments paid off early. So remember, Lee, you don't need to write everything down. All this should be in your notes that were printed. Are they? Okay, with the exception of maybe the formula. Yeah, all of it's there except for the formula down here. All right, so this piece right here, you'll see there's 3 different letters. There's K, R, and H. We've seen H before. H was the finance charge per $100. You had a formula for that back on 2 slides back, okay? And H is the finance charge divided by the amount that was financed times 100. So that's the same H. The other 2 pieces are found, one of them you have found before. You have found R before. R is the regular monthly payment, right? So that's however much we're going to owe divided by the number of months we're going to pay it out in. Make sense? We found that several times. There was 2 questions during homework about finding regular monthly payments you guys had. Okay? The part that's different or you haven't seen before is the remaining scheduled payments after the current month. All right, so we're going to see Ann and Andy do something here in a minute, and we're going to talk about how we find out that K value. But you have to be really careful on how K is defined. It's defined as the remaining payments after the current month you're on. Okay, so that will get you off a little bit if you don't get that after the current month piece. And then we calculate this using a little bit of multiplication and division, right? So we've got K times R, and then that's multiplied by the quantity H over 100 plus H. And that actually tells us the unearned interest. That is how much money we're going to save by getting this paid off early. Again, this is one method. There's 2 methods for doing this. This is one of them. All right, so we're going to take a look at the payoff amount then. So let's say, for instance, then we are ready to make that payoff amount. We like the amount of unearned interest. We're going to save this amount of money. We have the ability to do so. We're going to go ahead and pay something off early. And we have the formula. These are just 2 versions of it. All they've done is switched where the R and the K plus 1R, so I don't care which one you like. They're the same thing. But all the values you recognize now, and you should. Again, K is the number of monthly payments that we're not going to make because we're paying it off early. R is the amount that we're not going to pay every month that we get to keep, put towards something else, go out more, I don't know, something. And then U is the amount that we have as unearned interest that we calculated on the previous slide. Okay, that's the same U. All right, so again, make sure you've jotted down the payoff calculation, but the rest of this paragraph is already in your notes. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at Ann and Andy. Ann got a new job, and with it came a signing bonus. There are jobs like that, you know. And in an effort to get their finances under control, because I think they need to. I'm seeing some nods. Yes, it sounds like a probably good plan. In an effort to get their finances under control, the couple decides to pay off the dishwasher early. That's a good plan. They originally agreed to 18 months. They've made 5 payments so far. Everybody make sense of that so far? They've made 5 payments. They're about to make payment number 6 within this month, right? And then they're going to be done with it.
13 monthly payments?
Right, we're going to figure out those pieces here in a minute. So part A wants us to find the unearned interest. So let me write in here the formula for unearned interest. So somebody tell me, what is my formula to find unearned interest?
U equals KR.
What's next, Trent?
H over 100 plus H.
Good. All right, so the pieces that you need to find then is we need to figure out what is K. Let me use a different color. What is K, what is R, and what is H? Let's start with H, because we calculated H. We already know that value. We've already looked at it. What was H in this particular situation back on the first page of your packet? What was it? 11% was the APR, but it wasn't H. We found it using H. 8.93 was the value in the table. 9 was the value we calculated. It was 9. So H is 9. Okay, it was a calculated value we already had. R we never found, so we're going to need to find that in a moment, but K is the easiest of the values to find. What is K going to be here?
13.
Is it 13? It's actually going to be 12. So, Terry, why is it 12?
Because they're already on the 5th month.
Right, so they've already paid 5 months, actually, yeah? They're about to pay payment number 6, and that's going to be their last payment, agreed? it's going to be this, larger amount. It's not going to be the normal amount, but it's going to be this last large amount, which means how many payments are they actually not going to make? 12. They already made 5. They're about to make number 6, which will be the last one. They're going to save the money from the last 12 payments. Does everybody make sense on that? That's why that's 12 and not 13, because that's an easy mistake to overlook. In fact, we did it yesterday in my other class. Okay? All right. R then. How do I find my regular monthly payment?
Take your total, so your what it costs plus interest.
Okay.
Divide by how many months.
Good. So what did we finance? How much was it that we financed? Do you remember?
$400.
$400. Good. What was the finance charge?
36.
36. And we're going to pay it off in what time frame? Originally. Originally, it was 18 months. So you're going to take your calculator, you're going to add 436, so you're going to get 436 and divide by 18.
Divided by 18 is equivalent to $24.22.
Awesome. So 2422 is R. And if I've got all 3 pieces of this information, I can do this problem, right? This is just a matter of plugging values in, like Algebra 1 in high school, or maybe junior high for some of you. So taking a look at this then, you can put those pieces in. K is 12. R is 24. Oh, and that was a typo, sorry, over there. I did hear Leah correctly. It was 22. Here we go, 2422. H is 9. And then this will be over 109, right? 100 plus 9 is 109. So you can multiply straight across here, actually. You can take 12 times 24.22 times 9 divided by 109. And this is the amount that you're going to save in interest. It's a dollar amount. Make sure you put that on there. What do you get?
The T after 100 cents or time, right?
The T after 100.
Like H.
It's all this.
Oh,
That's a plus, yes. That doesn't look very good. You're right, though. 100 plus H. Did we get a value? I heard lots of clicking. It was, what's the next number after the 9, Holly? So it would be 24, right. So 24, you can put your 2 zeros if you'd like, or just leave them off. So it's $24 we're going to save by paying it off early. I get it, it's not huge. The 36 actually wasn't a huge number to begin with, but considering the amount that we owed, it was actually a pretty large amount for the amount that we were owing money on. Do you have questions? The 36 was back on step 1, 2, I think it's step 2. Right here. Step 2 on the very front page. Yeah, it was the finance charge on the dishwasher. Any other questions on that one, where anything came from or anything?
When we got the months,
Mhm.
how many months are left? Did it say somewhere that they were on the 6th payment?
It did. Back over here, it says they've made the 5 payments so far, which means they're on payment number 6. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, let's take a look at Part B then. Part B wants us to find the payoff amount, and you had a formula on how to do that as well. What is the payoff formula?
K plus 1 times R minus Q.
Awesome. And we know all of those pieces of information, don't we? What was K? 12. So this is 12 plus 1, or you could put 13 in there. What is R? That was my 2422. And what is my unearned interest back from problem A?
$25.
$24. Okay, so what this is doing, you're going to get me a value here in a minute, but what this is doing is it's taking 13 payments, right? 12 plus 1 at the 2422, and it's subtracting off the 24 that we're saving by paying it off early. Okay, so what is the payoff amount here?
That'll be $293.86.
Right. And this is one of the two ways, using actuarial method, that if you were to call and change your terms on any loan, car loan, any of these appliance loans or jewelry loans kind of things, that they would use to figure out what your total payoff amount is. Okay? So if you have a car loan right now, for instance, you could call your credit union or your lending institution today, and they would calculate for you, if you were to pay it off today, what is the payoff amount that you would need to be debt-free? Yes? You got what?
Yeah, I got 286. That's really high. Because it'd be 0.22 times 13.
On which part are you looking at?
The payoff.
What answer are you guys getting?
Is that what finance people go?
Order of operation.
Yeah, I think you've got an order of operations issue because this is the number 13. And when I multiply 13 times 24, that number's fairly large. Did you guys multiply 13 times 24? Okay, do that first. Make sure you're getting that piece in there, right? So here's what you guys tried to do. You tried to do this piece first. You can't do that piece first. Order of operations, you multiply before you subtract. Okay, are we good? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked because I don't want you to make that mistake later, for sure. Any other questions on this part? Okay, there's a second way to find unearned interest that we're going to talk about. Okay? All right, so I'm going to switch the slide. There's another way. It's called the Rule of 78. And it has all the same sort of features. That is, we're paying it off early. How much money do we get to save? But it's a different way of calculating it. And the benefit in this particular way is you don't need H. So if you hadn't found it back earlier in the problem, what do you have a question on, Leah?
I can't see the formula.
Okay, that's okay. I'll move. I promise. Give me just a second to explain, okay? The benefit to this particular formula is there's not an H in it, which means that if you hadn't already calculated it, you don't have to go find it now, all right? There's a drawback, and you'll see that in a moment, but taking a look at this particular formula, it uses different features. Notice you've still got that K in there you had before, okay? K is the same thing it was before. Number of remaining monthly payments after the one we're on. The N value is the same as we originally described it. What was N ages ago? It's the number of payments we agreed to make, right? Okay, so that's what the N is. It's the original number of months. And then F is coming up in here, and we haven't actually defined F before, although we found it. What does it say F is up in the description? The original finance charge, which we keep calculating, right? It's the original amount of interest that we owe because we chose to make this decision. Okay, everybody with me on the formula? Now your order of operations is going to come into play here as well, right? Because you've got some pieces in here that you're going to have to be multiplying after you add and so forth. So we're going to have that going on. We're ready to take a look at what happens to Ann and Andy's situation if they're lending. By the way, you don't get a pick. The lending institution picks. Okay? It's not your choice on how much money you get back, believe it or not. Okay? So let's take a look at Ann and Andy. Same information as before. They're paying it off early. She got this bonus check. How much money is unearned interest? Same as before. But we're doing it in a different way. Our formula looks different. We have U equals K times K plus 1 over N times N plus 1 times the finance charge. Now let's identify these pieces. We already know K because we've already done that in the previous problem. It was 12. What is N in this problem? Way back on page 1. It was 18. That's how many months they agreed to do this for. And we calculated F earlier as well. What was the finance charge? $36, you bet. All right, so we're going to put these pieces into the formula. K is 12, so this is 12 times 13 on top, right? And then on bottom I have N, which is 18 times 19. And then I'm going to multiply this by 36. Here's what I need you to be careful of with your calculator and order of operations. If you just enter this from left to right or whatever, your calculator may very well not multiply the 18 and the 19. It may divide by the 18 because you've told it to divide and then multiply all the result by 19, giving you a far different answer. So my advice to you is to figure out what the top is and write it down, what the bottom is and write it down, and your calculator can't screw you up then, okay? It can't misinterpret what you meant because you won't let it. All right, so what is 12 times 13?
156.
Thank you, 156. And what is 18 times 19? What was it? 342. Thank you, Alyssa. Whoops. And then we're going to multiply by 36. Now, as long as you've simplified the denominator, that was actually the part that was going to cause concern. You're in good shape to use your calculator. Your calculator can't mess this up. You guys thought your calculator is smarter than you. I promise it isn't. Okay? So, we're going to take this. You can either multiply 156 times 36 and then divide by 342, or you can divide 156 divided by 342 and then multiply by 36. It doesn't make any difference. There's actually not an order of operations that occurs from multiplication to division, contrary to what the little ditty is that you remember that says, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS, or whatever. Okay, it doesn't make any difference. All right, so we multiply this, what do we get? $16.42. So in this particular situation, my question to you would be, which one does Ann and Andy hope that their institution's going to do? This one or the last one? The last one, because they saved more money, right? They saved $24 here. They're only going to save about $16.50. Okay, slightly less. It's not a huge number difference, right? But it is less. All right, let's do the payoff. The payoff formula is the exact same. It did not change depending on this method. We still find the payoff the same way. We find our payoff by taking K plus 1 times that regular monthly payment R and subtracting my unearned interest. Okay, so K plus 1 was 12 plus 1, or 13. The regular payment still was $24.22. The unearned interest is the part that's different on this one, right? My unearned interest is $16.42. And again, we want to make sure that we do the multiplication of 13 times 24.22 first, and then subtract the 16.42 second. So she gets her bonus check from her new company, and she's headed to the bank to pay this off. How much would she have to pay if they used this calculation instead?
$288.34.
I agree. Did we get same answers? Calculators across the board. Good. Any questions on this? All right, I need you to put a note down in your notes and or somewhere that when you do your homework, you're going to make yourself aware of. There is a particular section in your book. It's problems number 13 and 14. Okay, problems 13 and 14. And they do this stuff, okay? The difference is they don't tell you the original number of months of the loan, but they do tell you the remaining number of scheduled payments, okay? So the remaining number of scheduled payments on 13 is 18 months. The rating for 18 payments. On 14, it's 12 payments. That 18 and that 12 would be K, correct? Everybody with me? I mean, that's the remaining number of payments. They actually told it to you on 13 and 14. The reason I bring it up is because what you don't have on 13 and 14 is you don't have H to go back to in the slideshow. I mean, that's what we did on H, right? We went back in the slideshow to find out what H is. You don't have H. You're going to have to use table 7 on page 707 to find that. But the way that page 707 describes the months is that that column on the left is N, as in the number of originally scheduled months. It's actually K, the number of months that are left. Now, when we did it before, we had all of the months left because we weren't trying to pay anything off early, so N and K were the same thing. Now, the difference is now we're actually going to pay it off early, which K becomes actually what we're looking for in the table then. So you can go down on the K, and you can actually find out, oh, it was 18 months, and you can go across, and you can actually see what the H value is from the table then. And the H values are the ones inside the table. It's just a different perspective on how to use the table, okay? So that's the K value is the N value in your table when you get to 13 and 14. All right.